At this time also, my heart trembles and leaps out of its place. Listen, listen to the thunder of God's voice and the rumbling that comes from his mouth. Under the whole heaven, he lets it loose, and his lightning to the corners of the earth. After it, his voice roars. He thunders with his majestic voice, and he does not restrain the lightnings when his voice is heard. God thunders wondrously with his voice. He does great things that we cannot comprehend.
Have you ever seen a thunderstorm or anything at all like that? I bet most of us have. When Rebecca and I lived in Kansas, we had a home that had a large covered porch and a big swing on it. Late at night when the storms would roll in, Rebecca and I would sit out there on that swing as we watched the rain pour down in sheets and the lightning flash across the sky, and then, of course, the thunder that would rattle the windows and our very souls. There's something elemental, almost primal about thunder and lightning, isn't there? It's not surprising then that nearly all ancient religions heard the voice of God speaking in thunder. God lets loose his lightnings from horizon to horizon, lighting up the earth from pole to pole, reads Job 37:3 in the Message. After it, the text continues, God's voice roars. He thunders with his majestic voice. Oh, how charming, we all think to ourselves. How charming it is that these ancient scientific people actually believed that thunder was a supernatural phenomenon. Isn't that quaint? And indeed, some ancient religions did depict their gods holding lightning bolts in one hand and drumsticks in the other. Oh, how quaint those pre-scientifics were. But let's face it, we think to ourselves, I mean, we modern, we enlightened people, we know that lightning is caused by a large static electric discharge. That's all it is. The charge is so great that the air expands explosively, creating a shock wave, and then the air contracts rapidly as it fills the void, creating that initial crack of thunder, and then followed by the rumbles as the air continues to vibrate. That's what really causes lightning and thunder. There's nothing divine about it. And yet we undersell our ancestors if we think that the point of their sacred stories was to describe the origins of thunder and lightning. As Eric Elnes says in his book, Gifts of the Dark Woods, the book that has been our guide along with the scriptures in this series, the purpose wasn't to explain where lightning and thunder come from, but rather to explain where the voice of God comes from. And more important, how it comes to us through intuition, through insight. Biblical scholar John Crossan puts it this way. He says, it's not that ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically. but rather it's that our ancestors told their stories symbolically, and we are now dumb enough to take them literally. Who's looking so enlightened now, right? Being thunderstruck isn't about origin stories or atmospheric explanations. It is that sudden flash of insight and awareness that rocks our world, whose reverberations are felt deep into our souls for the rest of our lives. It's not about thunder and lightning, but rather how we encounter, how we hear the voice of God in our lives. Have you ever had a bolt out of the blue that just rocked your life? Maybe you experienced it when you first saw your spouse, and something inside of you said, "That's the one. I'm going to marry that person." I have a question. Any love at first sighters here? Raise your hand. The first time you saw your partner, you knew that it was love, it was meant to be, right? Thunderstruck. Or perhaps it came to you when you looked into the eyes of your child for the first time, and you just got lost in the depths of that abyss, and you knew that your life would never be the same. It would be revolving hereafter around this little one. Or maybe, just maybe, it might happen that perhaps you were sitting in church someday, and something the preacher said, or something the choir sang, just clicked in your heart, and you were flooded with this sense of peace, and you suddenly knew that it was true, that the gospel was true, that Jesus was who he said he was. You ever had a moment like that? The Bible is full of moments just like that. Moments like the one when Moses saw a glimmer up on the opposite mountain, and he went up there to see what was going on, and he encountered a bush that wasn't burning, and he was given a new life assignment. Lightning. Moments like the time the Israelites waited at the base of Mount Sinai as Moses received the Ten Commandments, and out of the dark cloud God thundered. And the people knew, they just knew, that God was doing something absolutely revolutionary up there on Mount Sinai. Or the moment like the one when Jesus asked Peter who he thought Jesus was. And Peter blurted out, "You're the Messiah, the Son of the living God." I mean, where in the world did that come from? I mean, let's face it, Peter certainly wasn't the brightest bulb in the pack of disciples. But there he was, right, with this tremendous insight. Or moments like the time with the Apostle Paul, who was just so certain of his righteousness before God in the law. When he saw a flash of light and was knocked off his high horse, both literally and figuratively. And he heard Jesus speaking to him, saying, "Paul, Paul, why are you persecuting me?" And Paul would never be the same after that. Being thunderstruck is about those moments where we are suddenly given tremendous insight that we would have never gained on our own, or gained in a long, long period of time. It's not about logic or reason, but it's the aha moment that comes to us when we need the insight the most and when we expect them the least. It's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. Any of you puzzlers out there? And you're looking and looking and looking for that end piece to the puzzle, that side piece. And you look all evening for that piece, and finally you just throw your arms up in frustration and you go to bed. And then you wake up in the morning and you take a quick glance at the table with the puzzle on it, and suddenly you see it right there, plain as day. There's the piece, and you shout out, "Eureka!" Have you ever had that experience like that? Our use of the word eureka, by the way, comes from the famous 2nd century scientist Archimedes, 2nd century BC. Archimedes needing to determine the amount of gold in the king's crown, but the catch is that he wasn't allowed to melt the crown down. It had to be the crown. And so he thought and he thought and he thought about how in the world he could measure the volume of an irregularly shaped object, right? It wasn't a cube, it wasn't a circle, there was no formula to figure this out. And he kept thinking and thinking about it, and he kept coming up completely blank. Then one night, while he was lowering himself into the tub at the public bathhouse, he noticed the water level rising. And he realized that this effect could be used to determine the volume of the crown. Archimedes, as the story goes at least, was so excited by his discovery that he ran out into the streets naked, shouting, "Eureka! Eureka!" which in Greek means, "I have found it! I have found it!" No, I'm not recommending that, by the way, to anybody here, just in case you're wondering. The eureka moments of great insight, have actually become a field of study in the area of psychology. And according to psychologists, there are 4 characteristics, 4 things that define a eureka moment. First of all, it comes suddenly and unexpectedly, often just when you're ready to give up. Second, it comes all at once as a coherent whole. You suddenly see the big picture and you see how it all fits together. Third, you know instantly that it's true. Whether it's a scientific, personal, or spiritual truth, you just know that it's true. And fourth, a eureka moment makes you happy. It fills you with joy, and it's often accompanied by laughter. Psychologists have found that eureka moments do actually often come, like our story of the puzzle, after a person has been sleeping or has taken an extended break from their project. That's because the break allows us to relax and to let go of our preconceived notions that have been keeping us stuck. Indeed, it's often our rigid adherence to what we think must be the way we're going to solve this thing that keeps us stuck in our lives or in our jobs. When we're thunderstruck, we see ourselves, others, our world, a problem, or God from a new angle, and suddenly free. You ever had a moment like that? Being thunderstruck can happen at any time, but as Pastor Marjorie Wilhelmy notes, the dark woods, the hard experiences of life, are especially fertile territory for them because the dark woods are always uncharted territory. We are lost and wandering in the dark woods, and all of our old strategies don't seem to be working here. We're ready for new insights to help us cope with the uncertain terrain. Just think about Job in our scripture reading. After all of his terrible tragedies, after his family was killed and after he lost all of his possessions, Job wanders in the dark woods for 30 chapters in this 38-chapter book. 30 chapters of poking around in the darkness. And he's just filled with pain and anger and question after question. And all Job wants for 30 chapters of this book is to meet God face to face and plead his case with him. Job is in the midst of this violent storm. His life has become a storm. But it isn't until our reading in chapter 37 that the lightning and thunder formally begin. Immediately after that, in Job 38, chapter 1, we read the following: Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind. 30 chapters in the dark world. Thunder and lightning. And then he hears the voice of God. The voice of God often comes to us in the midst of the thunderstorms of life, in the depths of the dark wood. You ever had an experience like that? I remember when my college roommate Bernie committed suicide. And I wept, and I wept, and I wept all night long. I just couldn't get my brain around how such a wonderful guy could have taken his life. I was just racked to my core. And then at 3 a.m., complete peace. And I heard the small, still voice of God saying that it was going to be all right, even though it was all wrong. At other times, being thunderstruck can be a shocking or it can be an uncomfortable experience for us. Being thunderstruck can shake our assumptions and shatter our prejudices. Sometimes these moments of insights can be downright painful, like when we encounter our own racism or homophobia or have our tightly held political beliefs questioned by someone or something that shows us a different, a more loving, a more just way of being, of thinking about life. I remember when I was serving on a committee that was searching for a new executive presbyter, somebody to oversee the 60 churches that were in our area. And we had sorted through just candidate after candidate. If you've ever been on a pastor nominating committee, know basically the process. It's basically the same for finding an executive presbyter. And we finally had narrowed it down to one man. I really liked this guy. I mean, he was an engaging, orthodox preacher. I heard the Word of God when he spoke. And I think I know when I hear the Word of God. He was sensitive and he was caring. He loved the Lord and he was a faithful servant of the church. He was a good leader. He was everything that we were looking for. All of us on the committee, including myself, agreed that he would do a great job. And then we discovered that he was gay. Not funny, God. Not funny. And I had to take a long, hard look at myself in the mirror. And I'll be honest with you, I did not like what I saw. And it was as if I heard God's voice thundering to me, saying, if he's good enough for me, O'Connell, why isn't he good enough for you? What are you going to do with this experience? Are you going to bury it? Or are you going to change the way you think? Or sometimes, being thunderstruck is just realizing that our own plan for our lives is just too small. That God has a bigger plan, a different plan for our lives than the one that we thought we were going to follow. I remember when I was a business major in college and doing sales jobs in the summer, and I liked selling stuff. It was fun, and I enjoyed the relationships, and I was pretty good at it too. But there was this nagging sense of discontent. And it was as if I heard God saying to me, you know, you can sell people stuff. It's okay. But is that all you want to do for people? Now, my point here isn't that ministry is somehow more spiritual than sales, because I don't believe that for a Kansas City minute. That's not true at all. Whatever you do, if you do it to God's glory, it's a sacred task. In fact, the world probably right now needs more truly Christian businessmen and women out there than it needs preachers of the Word, honestly. But business wasn't my call. And so God kept sending me these moments of insight that pointed the way for the direction that I should be going. And God is sending you thunder and lightning moments also, and inviting you to pay attention to them instead of ignoring them. Now, we've got to be a little bit careful here, because epiphanies like this can be tricky, and the human soul can be deceived by many things. We do have to ask ourselves and our good friends when they come up with their thunder and lightning moments, if God is really talking to us, or if it's actually the pizza that we just ate. You have to ask that hard question. It's a good question. You should ask that of yourself. But if it's a true call from God, then the moments, the thunder, will keep rolling over and over in our lives. It'll be that nagging sense of discontent, rather than that one time, this is it, quit your job and go become a missionary kind of an experience. It will continue to be confirmed. And our close friends will confirm them. We need church community to confirm the call of God in our lives. And they will. They'll corroborate. They say, yes, I've often thought that you would make a great Christian business person. Or you would be a great missionary. Or you would be a great elder or deacon or what have you. And those thunder and lightning moments will always be in harmony with what we have seen in Jesus Christ. They will always lead us to a more joyful, a more robust, a more loving way of life. A way of life that isn't shaped by ego or anxiety. God's voice roars. He thunders with his voice, says Job. Are you listening? Are you willing to have your world shaken up a little? I would invite you now to take a few moments to reflect upon your life. Think about a moment that felt like you were thunderstruck. It might have been a time when you felt resolve about a decision, or had an aha, or simply a time when you were awed by God's presence through nature. Through a person or through an incident, perhaps, where you sensed God's guidance in your life. Perhaps God's thunder is speaking to you right now in this very instant, and you're saying, oh, I've been pushing that insight off forever. Oh. And then, after you kind of sat for a little bit, I want you to take another minute, and I want you to turn to your neighbor. And I want you to share what that moment was, or perhaps what that moment is. Or, if you don't know your neighbor, you're a little freaked out by the whole thing, that's okay. If you prefer to simply reflect inwardly, you're welcome to do some journaling using the space on the back of your bulletin that says Journal Reflection Space. About 2 minutes for this exercise. And then after that, the choir will sing, but not until 2 minutes of that.